So just to put all these things into perspective, I draw up some examples from the internet. So on the left side and the center and on the right side, probably it's a bit too small to see. Basically, they are saying that some car review company, they basically describe the type of car by calling them car type. Some of them calling them vehicle type. Some of them actually call them, let's say, vehicle type, and I can't read the last one. But anyway, they're also talking about whether you're using the same terms to describe how the car has been driven. Is it called a drivetrain? Is it called a drive type? Or is it called a transmission type? So all these different terminology to us, we can comprehend because we process it in our head. But for machine, they are classified into different categories. And by the end of it, they chunk out 7 categories of information that human needs to intervene. And that basically create additional loads. So by having a common terminology, common measurement, assessment criteria, and unit, it simplified everything. And that is why certification scheme is so important. So when we talk about certification scheme, what aspect do we want to look at? So we talk with several people, talk with focus group, people that we met from the industry, all of them. It boils down to 3 or 4 areas. One is basically about quality. So quality is basically looking at how good is this data sets. Does it contain a lot of null value? Are the data actually valid, or are they make sense? When I ask for a gender, do I get 7 types or I get 2 types? And second aspect is basically looking into legal. Legal are very straightforward. There are rights, there are licensing, and the third one is basically do they conform to PDPA or PII. And the last one is basically talking about practicality. When I use certain data, does it tells me how I can access them? Do you have any documentations to show me how I can access your data, use your data, or does it come in a standard form? If it's not, it means that I need to go and learn a new language. I need to create a new script. I need to write new codes just to access the data. And then after that, I need to understand what is this data about. And then there's no descriptions. Basically, it's up to me to figure out. Isn't that painful? No? Okay. Well, okay. It is for me, but okay. So I suppose it is. So how to actually attain this certification? The process is basically 3 parts. The first, we think it should be a self-declared conformant process. Basically, it will come in a form of questionnaires where the data provider will actually go through and say, okay, did you provide any documentations to describe how to access your data? Yes. What is it? What kind of document? Second, have your data gone through any data quality metric check? Yes or no? If yes, what kind of metrics is that? And so forth. So basically, it goes through a series of conformance that you need to declare, just like you providing, just like the example that I showed earlier about the car details. So in the first example, it doesn't tell you much. It just tells you fuel economy, car type, general description. It doesn't tell you the dimension. Like for example, on this part, it tells you the dimension within the car, how much space, how big is the seat. After you sit in there, how much space you have in the entire room. All these informations. So the points that I try to drive here is how much information can you draw from the data set even before you look at it. Is it sufficient for you to decide you want to spend more time on it? Or is it something that you don't think you can trust them and you have little confidence in even start to explore on them? Is it worth your effort and time to send someone in or yourself to actually look at these particular data sets? And then after the certification process, then a certificate will be issued. And the certificate will contain 3 characteristics. The first one is very important. It must be machine readable. It means that the certificate itself can be processed by the machine. So the machines will filter and see whether this particular data set fits your needs. If it's not, put it aside and go on to the second one. Second is basically is human readable. Not all informations can be processed by machine, but it must contain some form of documentations that human can process, human can read through and understand and see whether it fits your needs. And finally, it must be written in a language that most of us don't understand except a lawyer. So because the certificate eventually will be a legal document that contains the copyright, the licensing, and also the PDPA informations, whether it have complied with the PDPA, it have gone through some form of due diligence check to make sure that it comply, or whether it doesn't contain any PII at all. And of course, coming from the data provider standpoint, I can always say I have everything, I have complied everything, I fulfill everything, I've done everything possible, but I just declare, but who's going to check them? So we think in order to drive down the cost without involving anybody yet in the early certification step, it might be a viable stage to make it scalable by having the data user come in to attest to it, basically to do the validation. The idea is very similar to TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor basically says you can go out, you stay in the hotel, you post up what you like about the hotel, what you don't like about the hotel, does it actually fit what the hotel actually described. And that way, basically, you have a check and balance in place. You have the data provider saying what they have done, what do they comply, and you have the data user that actually goes in and check and validate this point. And from there, you can, just like a TripAdvisor or Makan Sutra, number of chili, things like that, as more people attest to this particular data provider, it says something. What does it say? This data provider is credible. A lot of people use it, they like it, it's actually true to what it's been declared. So it's more trustable. So what do you all think about this scheme? So far so good? Okay, thanks. So the benefit is basically both way, the data user side and also the data provider side. The important thing, the scheme basically allows people to use and reuse data much easier. It instills this level of trust for the people in using that data. And it tells you upfront what you can do, what you cannot do with the data sets, so that you don't get into any things that you don't want to get into, especially when it involves legal and it's costly and time consuming and things like that. And also, it gives you a first glance how much effort it requires for you to process them. If it comes with documentations to tell you that, hey, I have this API format that I'm complying, as for example, like the TR technical reference that been developed by IDA, I comply to that, I have used that technical reference, it's very easy to access, then you know upfront there's very minimal things that you need to change on how you access data in the first place. And also the amount of support that you can expect. Does it comes with any email address, contact number, company name that I can get in touch with? Or is it something that anyone posted up and it just to drive the market in certain directions to their benefits? So it's basically give you more confidence in how trustable is these data sets. And lastly, of course, for companies or for enterprises who are looking for data on the long run, it means that this particular data set, I'm going to build apps, I'm going to build services around these particular apps to deliver my services, to start my company. I want to make sure that things are locked down through some form of service level agreement, so that when I launch my services, launch my apps, and when my business grow, this data provider won't bail on me. They won't raise their price. They won't do things that will impact my business significantly. And on the data provider side, basically it's a form of recognitions, a form to mark how trustable or how reliable your data set is. It's also a mark of simplicity to tell people your data set is easier to access than other people. And also, lastly, to attain on a higher tier, to attain a different, to attain a better usability of your data, the data provider can see this scheme as a form of guideline, a form of guide to what else I can do to improve my data sets. Do I need to build API around it? Do I need to build certain support around it? Do I want to consider serving the enterprise level by preparing some form of SLA around it? Or do I want to do some form of data cleansing? What kind of cleansing do I do on top of these data sets to make it more easy to monetize? These are basically some of the steps that, or aspects that people are expecting, and you can do better to monetize the data sets. And also, this entire talk is basically to get everyone excited, hopefully. We are calling for participations for the focus group to co-develop this scheme together with us. We are looking for data provider, or data provider are people who aggregate data or actually owns the data. It can be data that you generated yourself. Like for example, one example that I heard is basically, I collected my own health data. Those data that I collect from my Fitbits and things like that, my health data, my weight, my BMI informations, can I contribute it to a certain site where they can look at all the people around my age, my age, my weight, and how fit am I? What are the chances of me getting a stroke or getting some kind of diseases, high blood pressure, cholesterol, stuff like that? So there are people who contribute their data willingly to get this kind of information back. So for data users are companies or individuals who like to build apps developer, companies who like to get buying data, things like that. We are looking for you to actually contribute. What aspect of the scheme will actually helps you? What are the things that matters more to you? And finally, of course, those people from open initiative, those people like, for example, from Creative Commons, Open Data Initiative, ODI, we welcome them also, because ultimately, data certification scheme is not a standalone scheme. It's interoperable with other certification scheme or other framework, because eventually we want them to be interoperable. It means that if you're already on Creative Commons, you can get on board certification scheme by doing very little thing extra to get yourself certified. So I hope today's talk basically give you some flavor about data certification scheme, and more about data is coming on 31st. Basically, we have a talk about technical insight on introduction to cloud outage incident response framework, and on the business case, we have an opportunity in data-driven economy from a startup perspective. So it will be presented by people from Deloitte Risk Advisory Practice and also a company called Handshakes. And finally, I'd like to thank you for your time, and important, keep calm and use certified data sets. That's all for my presentation today. Thank you.